And today we're gonna be talking a little bit about bridging creativity, technology, and purpose in the age of AI. And we are really excited to have you here. And it is one of our, this is actually our first video interview and podcast style-ish content. So yeah, it's really great to have you as our first guest here.
I'm so excited for you.
Okay, that sounds great. Uh, let's start off with a little bit of talk about a little bit of your experience in Supercell. So, um, since Supercell's games is pretty big in Taiwan,
Mhm.
I think a lot of these questions will be pretty relatable, or like people will kind of know the games like Clash Royale and Brawl Stars and such. So at Supercell, they've emphasized being a data-informed rather than purely data-driven marketing team. How did that philosophy shape your day-to-day creative decisions in practice?
Yeah, so I think when people think about games, a lot of times they think of it as like an app or like, oh, it's a technology. But game is actually an entertainment format, right? And when it comes to entertainment, there's a lot of art and science. So if you purely looking at game as a product that's driven by data, then you'll never make a really great game. If you listen to everything a player tell you to build, then you'll build for no one. And we always have the saying that if you build for everyone, then you build for no one. So if so we try not to adopt like a date completely pure data driven like philosophy, but really more data informed. And what that means is that you have a thesis of what you believe. So you believe you have a very strong belief that this game or whatever, this is the type of people or whoever that I want to really build it for, and we think they would do X, Y, and Z. And you kind of go with this belief and you let the data tell you, like, okay, this is what we believe, this is what we built. But did the data tell us a different story? If the data tells us a different story, then okay, we can maybe shift our belief a little bit, but it's never like completely driven by the data as itself. So it become more like what I said, a data-informed culture is you start with a belief, then with the data, you decided to whether refine your belief, iterate your belief, and sometimes we look at the data, we're like, this is inconclusive. We throw it away and keep going at it.
Hmm.
It's really crazy because like um I would say game developers are like artists. I mean,
Hmm.
artists don't follow just what people tell them to do, right? They have an opinion, they have a perspective, they have very like a very interesting way to see the world, and they use that knowledge with their artistic visions to create something that's very new. And if you think about games, it's not really a product in terms of like productivity, it's really an experience that you curate for someone, right? And that
Hmm.
experience is so um it's so unique that like can you create culture from that experience? And
Hmm.
when you have enough of people have that shared experience, then you sort of create, I would say, a phenomenon like you're changing how people interact and not changing how people like what conversation they have. So if you just use data alone, you won't be able to really shift culture in the sense that you want through like creative expressions.
Yeah, I do agree with you about since if you only look at the data, you're not really interacting with uh, what people actually think. And also, I can totally understand when you said when you listen to everyone,
Yes.
it's going nowhere because everybody has a lot of different opinions
Yeah.
to games. So yeah, I think it's at the end of the day, we are not just looking by the data, we're also looking at different feedback and like you mentioned the decision making. Um, they they will perform with data and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So and this is one thing that I want to ask, which is Supercell invested nearly 9 months into a single 60-second cinematic, no time to explain, which later became a major user acquisition driver for Brawl Stars. Uh, as for myself, I did also see that cinematic ad when the game before it came out. So, what did that project teach you about balancing short-term performance metrics with long-term brand building?
Yeah, so I want to shout out to my really good colleague Laura, who was the creative directors on that 60 seconds
Okay.
creative.
Mhm.
And it was it was pretty insane because you're investing a lot on a piece of creative without knowing if the games is gonna perform, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about games going back to like, you creating almost as like a world building, right? You're inviting people to this world. You're inviting them to imagine something new with you. And that creative needs to speak very loudly of what that world will look like, whether it's the characters that will live in this world, the art style, the design, and what this world is all about. And how do we communicate that in that 60 seconds, right? And that project becomes tricky because you have to understand people's attention span is so short these days. 60 seconds feel really long, especially along platforms like TikToks or even Instagram Reel these days. I think most people's video is 15 seconds long. So some say like watching a 60 seconds is almost like watching like a movie. I don't but it does feel really long. And
Mm.
then each frame, right? You can tell so many story in each frame. So what is the story you chose to tell? And I think one of the biggest drivers was that we want people to know, number one, this is a casual mobile game, right? You have these very like hardcore mobile game that you have to play on PC or like, play on console, whatever that is, right? Can we create like the same feeling of the intensity of mobile, but on a mobile device? So No Time Explained was kind of capturing that intensity of like quick, like action-packed type of games that you can play on your on the go device. And on top of that, like we want to show the three characters because majority of the game mode is 3v3. So we have to like showcase those three characters. Which three characters do we want to set? Like who is gonna really be like the driver, the face of the product, right? So that also comes with like a lot of the decision makings. And finally, we want it to feel cinematic. And then the reason why we want to feel cinematic is that we want folks to know that this is a very high quality games, right? Like we spend a lot
Yeah.
of months, it's very intentional. And that creative decision really pay off because the cinematic is so high quality. We end up spending very little money on like paying for impressions on these like major ad network. Because if you think
Wow.
about Facebook, Instagram, TikTok of the world, they were so thirsty for good content. And
Yeah.
majority of the game content, they're so low quality. You think about lots of match three games or these like games that is kind of more clickbaity, right? They're so low quality. So when you have any piece of high quality content, yes, the creative investment is very high. But if you look at the long-term performing creative, like performing results of that creative, we actually end up being very cheap to acquire new users because the platform was willing to like serve these impressions of these creative at a very low cost versus that you might spend very little money on a cheap creative but you will end up paying for a lot of like costs on the distribution side. There's no right or wrong. The math is tricky, but I think if we look back at that piece of creative and look at that 3 months marketing campaigns after the game launch, it was totally a, a good cause in terms of
Yeah.
return on investment for sure. Yes.
Yes, I do agree. It was a huge success, I would say, since I've definitely seen Brawl Stars or maybe even Clash of Clans, Clash Royale be such a success in the world. Like I have traveled to different places for school or just for fun, and I can always see people playing the game, or like I can see people mentioning it. So I could definitely relate to how No Time to Explain really was a huge success in the long run. And that also connects to how Brawl Stars launched in 2018 and
Mhm.
became the first number one downloaded game in over 50 regions upon global release, including Taiwan as well.
Yes.
And how did a Finnish game company capture the hearts of Taiwanese players? Since there is definitely a lot of different culture and different understanding, or they want to put a little bit of the culture into their own games, but it's like it's so popular everywhere and it captures everybody's hearts. How did they actually do that?
I think if go back to like the DNA of the company, right? I think Ilka, the CEO of Supercell, he has this vision that he wants to make game that people will play for many years. So the intention is the longevity of a games. If you look at a lot of mobile games, like even like AAA games, right? They have like a period that it's go very viral, and then after a while the games will churn, right? And this is very similar to a lot of movies, right? A lot of movies you launch, you do put a lot of marketing dollars, and it'll go very popular for 3 months, but after 3 months, that's it. So it's
Hmm.
almost like changing the way we make these entertainment. How do we become a forever game? And creating a forever games requires a lot of like thought into the core loop. And what we learn is that you you can make a game so tailored culturally to a specific audience, but if the core loop is not tight, is not repeatable, it's really hard to like have a forever game. So the team actually spent a lot of time, I think in the first almost like 3 years, right, just focusing on that core loop. What can I
Hmm.
create this repeatable behavior that is across globally, like people will keep coming back and do the same thing over and over again? Not so much thinking about, oh, like I need to make a certain skin for this audience. I need to like bring in these like cultural moments for these audience. Of course, we do that later, right? We have these seasonality where we do like Christmas campaign, Halloween campaign, Chinese New Year campaign. But those campaigns are still so short-lived. If your core loop is not tight enough, you can't get people to have like a repeatable behavior, right? You don't really have a game.
Right.
And then you can see a lot of other very successful gaming company that have games that people play forever, right? Is again having that very repeatable core loop. Like shout out to Nintendo, right? Super Mario Brothers. Like after so many years, people still play it because that loop, that first level, you can just keep playing it over and over again. It's still enjoyable. And how do we create that feelings? And I think that is the art and science part. Like no data is going to tell you what to do. You just have to have like a point of view and think about what are some of the most fun moments you have in any games you play. What are those actions that you take over and over again? Oh, was collaboration, was competing, like have some sort of like PvP elements to it.
Hmm.
You can do it in between classrooms or like
Hmm.
at the toilet, whatever that is. Like, how can you have these repeatable moments in just 30 seconds every day, right? So
Yeah,
that's really like how we think about building for the global audience, not so much on aesthetic or the look and feel, but really on that core user behavior. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So it's all about the main game and make it in fun so people will stick to it
Yeah.
yeah, to instead of wanting to please a certain group,
Yeah.
right?
And, y- and
So
and
yeah,
players are so smart. When you do something that is so performative, they know. They
yeah,
know.
it
They
yeah,
so smart.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, I think people have been playing games for over I don't know how many years already. So yeah, they will evolve as well. Same
They were
as
like, "Oh, you're just trying to please me. I don't like this." And then it's yes.
yes, yeah, I can relate to that for sure. And talking about global performance of the game,
Yeah.
can you share some moments when a global approach of localization that worked and moments that you had the moment of global approach that clearly worked, or and the moments that you have to bend the rule and kind of localize the game towards a certain group?
Yeah. So this is so obvious now looking back, but when we first put Browser in beta, the game was iOS only. We're
Mm.
testing in very few markets. I think we are testing in Canada and just using Canada as like a mirror markets for like the US, right?
Mhm.
Um, and the game didn't perform very well. So our Asia team, shout out to my colleagues at that time, in both in Korea and Shanghai, they said, wait, if we want to go to these games in Asia, we have to have an Android build because most people in Asia, they have an Android phone. They don't have an iPhone. That such like like obvious decision, right, was
Yeah.
really what got us really big in Taiwan. Because at that time, I think we soft launched in Taiwan, Macau, and Hong Kong as a signal to like Asia markets. And the Android users are the one that was so retentive. Number one, Android users are really looking for high quality games because I
Yeah.
felt like a lot of time iOS get the best apps first because developers have this mindset that, oh, iOS users have money, they can monetize. Of course, you have to win the iOS market. But the Android market was also growing at that time. And most users in Asia, they just have an Android phone. They don't have an iOS device. So that really like taught us the lessons like when we go live and even in beta and even at the stage of beta, you have to have both OS ready because your markets
Mhm.
have a different device dominance.
Mm.
In terms of like bending the market, right? Like Japan has always
Yeah.
been a very tricky market for a lot of
Mm.
Western game makers. Japanese uh, gamers have a very specific aesthetic they really like.
Yeah.
And this is actually not related to Brawl Stars, but few years before that, we tried to do a ad using an anime style for Clash Royale, and it didn't work out. This goes
Uh,
back to like trying to please a demographic, right? We thought, okay,
mhm.
Japanese players love anime. Why don't we change all the Clash Royale characters to anime characters, right? They see through
Mhm.
it. They're like, what are you doing? This is so
Mhm.
performative. And even though
Mhm.
the campaign was a good testing, right? We're just testing, we're just trying to learn. This is like what I goes back to like when you bend so backward for a demographic, you try so hard. It doesn't feel authentic, it doesn't feel organic, and your players can tell. So,
Uh,
so that was like one thing we learned. It's like we've been very backward for Japanese players. They don't like
mhm.
it. They want something that feels more authentic. So later on, when Clash Royale had the 2v2 mode, my colleagues like, well, why don't we, approach it differently? Why don't we do something that is more authentic, more localized? That is the type of commercial that you're used to watching. And that commercial actually was pretty successful. So I hope
Uh,
those are a good example, but yeah,
yeah.
it's just wild. Like, why didn't we build an Android like version of it until almost like ready to do global launch, right? But lesson learned.
Yeah, I would definitely imagine that having the Android side definitely
Yeah,
increases like the Asian player base. Yeah, that's definitely a a big step forward.
for sure.
So yeah, so with high performing assets that run for a long time, creative fatigue is always a risk. What
Yes.
signals did you rely on to decide when it was time to retire or refresh a long running creative?
I think so. Here's the thing that people don't think much when they create these very high quality assets. When you have a 60-second assets, right, you can cut it
Mm,
many times to create multiple assets, right? So it's not just like you play that 60-second video and you just wait till everyone get very tired. Because a lot of time your audience only watch like 5 second or 10 second of it, right? So you
mm,
now have 50 second of material they have never seen before. So what you
mm,
can do is that you have this very high quality, this very high quality piece of content. You cut a different version of it and figure out which version of it actually does well. So even for that 60 seconds creative, right? I think we cut like at least 100 versions of it to figure out
mm,
what works well. So it really can extend the longevity of your creative. And again, like when we think about creative, we think about one piece of video, but it's not true. There's short video format, that can be static format, it can be carousel format. I think it's all about like just trying different formats until you see that, that impression gets really expensive, that CPI gets very expensive, then you can like try different like creative out. So I think the word fatigue is like it's a blanket term. Oh, there's creative fatigue. I was like, wait. Have you tried this version? Have you tried a different copy that go along with like
uh,
this creative, right? And even when you serve something that, oh, 2 million people have seen it, well, it's only 2 million people. There's still like 2 billion people haven't seen it yet. Have you served to them? Have you tailored the creative to serve to them, right? Have you
mhm,
used like a different cover page, a thumbnail, right?
yeah,
And if majority of watch time is only 5 seconds, that means this piece of creative was not engaging enough for them to watch all of it. So, so I think sometimes like folks might give up too soon on their creative and be like, oh, no one see it. I'm gonna have to make another creative from brand like from scratch. Don't do that.
mhm,
Just try
yeah.
again. Just pose again. And then I think the best thing, like I always tell creators in general, it doesn't matter if you like work for games, right? If you post something and nobody sees it, you get very little views. It's okay.
Mhm.
That means nobody saw it. You can try again. Just post that. Like getting little views is not a failure. It just means that it was not engaging. And the worst thing is that nobody saw it, so we can try again.
That is a really good way of thinking of
Yeah.
this because I can definitely relate how like if I want to impress someone and they didn't
Yeah.
see it, oh probably I'm a failure. But yeah, maybe they didn't see it or like it's not as embarrassing as you think. Yeah.
Yes, maybe the time of the day was not right. Maybe
Hmm.
you were competing with another big advertiser that is also running some big campaigns at the time. So I was just saying that, like, you know, create like even like making videos, whether you make it on Instagram versus on TikTok versus on Twitter, right? You have to try all kinds of formats.
Yes. So it's not you can always let people see different perspectives
Yes.
of a single creative idea and not maybe switching it up will help.
Yes. So
Right.
don't give up so soon just because oh probably people are just tired of this creative. No, like unless you tell me like 10 million people have seen it, then they're not too tired. You
Mhm.
should-
For sure. Yeah, definitely not. Don't be afraid to keep
Yes,
going, to keep trying, right?
yes,
Okay. All right. So, a interesting question for since I am also a Supercell game player, I've always been curious to ask that how why Supercell leads with their logo in the first second of every video or like in their game, uh, even at the cost of immediate attention. So if you were advising a new studio today, how would you help them decide what kind of brand tax is worth paying in their own ads?
So this is a tricky question. I think, Supercell started the studio in a different time, right? This is like back in 2010s when mobile was a new thing. They have to do things a certain way, and some of it just become a traditions and culture that they carry, right? For new studio, I think the brand awareness is important, but I also do think that like players in general are more attached to the game brand than the studio brand. I would say a lot of players actually don't know that, King is the one that the King is part of Activision and Activision now own Candy Crush. They don't care. They just care about Candy Crush. They just care about the game brand. So
Right.
for any new studio, right, I rather you focus your time on building your game brand than so much focusing on your studio brand. Like I think if you grab like forget about Supercell for a second, if you grab like an average consumer, average player, right? A lot of them have played Among Us. Do they really know
Mhm.
which studio make Among Us? Right? So that game brand actually carry a lot more volume and voice because that's what people get attached to. And if you think about those who go to BlizzCons or get really excited about League of Legends, right? Um,
Mhm.
I think people will buy a t-shirt with their favorite League of Legends champions on, but they will never buy a t-shirt that has the word Riot on it.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's cool to have like a studio brand, but that's not why people play your games. They play your games is because the characters that you create, the games that you create, so they will always be more attached to the game than the
Yeah.
studio brand. So for a new studio, I say don't worry that so much about that. Just focus on your game. Yeah.
Mhm. I see.
Yes.
Okay. Uh, I'd like to shift gears a bit. After working at a company like Supercell, you founded Tiny Comet,
Yes.
and that decision was deeply personal, I would say. Uh, Tiny Comet began from a very personal motivation, wanting better learning experience for your own children. How did
Yes.
that lived experience translate into concrete design decisions for your first Roblox title?
Yes, I think for us was that I think going like thinking about like why founder studio and even like raise money for it was um I really want to make a different type of educational games.
Mhm.
And unfortunately when investor hear the word education and games in the same sentence, they get really fearful because
Yeah.
education games are always not very fun, right? When you think about educational games, it's not fun, it's boring, or that It wouldn't make any monies. It doesn't have the global phenomenon that like other games have, right? So the idea was like, can I at least try to break in this category? Like if someone's gonna try it, a mom has to try it. So my co-founder and we're both mothers, we both had kids, and we want to like really maybe change the screen time for something better, right? And one thing I noticed is that children are actually very smart. They learn a lot through playing video games. And one game that I was very inspired by was Assassin's Creed. I learned so much about Egyptian history because of Assassin's Creed. And then also the game Hades. I learned so much about Greek mythology because of playing Hades, right?
Mhm.
So can I create something that allows, you know, folks to play the game, but doesn't even register that it's a education game? And one thing that I was really obsessed with was American history. And I think the
Mhm.
early American history has a lot of like survival theme, like how
Mhm.
building a colony, being a new settlers, bravery. So just based on real world history, can we build something like that, right?
Yeah.
And we test out in like elementary school. We even work with like history teachers to like implement that in the classrooms. But when like you build for fun, then you also have to compromise on the education values. How to find the
Yeah.
balance become very tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It for me, I do when I was around middle school or
Yeah.
elementary school, I remember playing some during like computer classes,
Yeah.
teachers showing us like educational games, and in the end, uh it felt like something we'd only do in class rather than actually playing it in our free time. So yeah, I would definitely imagine it's a really hard task to do to
Yeah.
make you stick to it. Yes.
Yes.
But I would like to ask a bit more about the game, and the mission is to make American history as engaging as the games kids already love, especially at a time when many students struggle with the subject. How did you translate that learning gap into specific mechanisms, systems, or quests in the Jamestown game?
Yeah, so we actually look at AP US history material and have a AP US history teacher as an advisor, writing all the copies and the dialogue in the games. Our goal was that can this game alone cover the curriculums of the first 2 units of the AP US history exam, right? And we went as like very far to like working with the Roblox education team and getting a lot of guidance from them. Um, what we really want to do is through storytelling, right? The repetitions, really thinking of it as like a survival RPG games.
Right.
You come in as a settlers, what would you do? What sort of challenge have you like, interact with? The threats that you experience as a settlers, those are real threats. So we
Mm,
didn't want to promote the game as an educational game. We didn't even want to put it in the classroom until like average players actually have fun playing with it. At
right.
one point, I think because Lego Fortnite launched around the same times, it really gave our game
Mhm.
some boost. And we were able to
Right.
have a lot of players around the same time because they thought, oh, this is like Lego Fortnite, but free on Roblox with American
Mhm.
history as a background.
Mhm.
So it was a really cool project. But then when we tried to implement it in the classroom, that was exactly the challenge that we experienced.
Mhm.
Teacher only have 15 minutes for student to play games or use it as a supplementary like teaching material, right? But if you only play the game for 15 minutes, none of these, good stuff register. You almost have to like spend a lot of time on the games. So balancing the learning objective versus the fun, like how much they can play, become a very big challenge. And in the end, as unfortunate as it was, it just wasn't a good fit in the classroom. So we went on it all out and just make it more like a commercial product, have it on Roblox, and let the players determine. We did get to 10,000 members for the game, so that was a good
Mhm.
metrics, but that's where we saw the ceiling. We cannot grow any further. So it is what it is.
Mhm. So you also referenced research showing that gamification can improve engagement,
Yes.
motivation, and memory. Which ideas or frameworks most influence your product decisions, and where did you deliberately go against common tech assumptions?
I think like I think I think um when it comes to like education products, I think because a lot of times they have to sell to parents. So the education value almost have to be so deliberate, right? Like, oh, if your kids use this, they will learn X, Y, and Z. If your student does this, then they will improve their score by X, Y, and Z, right?
Yeah.
And I I think that's why a lot of education games are not very fun to play because
Mhm.
it's the parents who pay for it, right? But then the students or the children are usually the players. So you have like a dual funnel problems. The buyer is the parents, but the user is not the parents, it's actually the kids. And a lot of the products sort of satisfy the parents because they have to monetize. So we sort of go against that, like, okay, like let's forget about the parents piece for a second. Can we at least build something that is fun for the kids to engage? And I think that's where we kind of go against the conventional wisdoms of like appealing to the parents. And funny enough, we didn't even try to monetize very hard on the games. Well, we still was able to monetize because the kids just find the games enjoyable, right? They thought it
Mhm.
was really fun. So they actually spend money to buy a new skin for the stellars, or like they will spend a little bit money on these like little like microtransactions in the Roblox game. So I would say for those who want to build education games, they should focus on who the players offers, then try to appeal to the parents, because otherwise it's just gonna be any other product out there.
Right. So, like as you said, parents aren't the ones who are playing, or they aren't the users
Yes.
of your product. So uh, they wouldn't like it. The expectations or such wouldn't really match with the users. So yeah,
Yes.
I do agree with that.
Yes.
And
I think the parents would disagree, but I think the
mm.
kids would enjoy playing the games a lot more. Actually, we use
Yes, yes. So whenever like players they when they choose for themselves, they would
yes,
have more fun, I
yes,
guess.
because you give them the sense of agency. Like I chose to do this. I want to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So as you mentioned earlier, that Tiny Comet brings together educators, narrative designers, and experienced Roblox developers. What
Yeah.
did you learn about building an interdisciplinary team that respects educational rigor without sacrificing fun?
It's very hard. I I think because there's very few overlap in terms of their knowledge, right? Like
Mhm.
educators, um,
Yeah.
education in general is already a very tough problem to solve. Building a
Mm,
good game is also really hard. So you instead of solving one very hard problem, you end up solving two very hard problems, right? And
mhm,
getting the educators understanding game mechanics and getting the game designer or game builders understanding the education values, you always are playing kind of like the middleman's trying to get both of them understand each other, right?
mhm,
So for example, the designer that we got who is um, an educator, right? Her goal is to make sure that we hit all these curriculum. But the game designer was like, oh, if you do this, it's not very fun. If like,
mhm,
the NPC speaks so much and the dialogue is so dense, nobody's gonna read it. They're gonna just hit next, 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 right?
mhm,
So sometimes you will just have to compromise, right? So maybe like the fun part will have to suffer on this chapter, but maybe we can like make it more fun in the next chapters. And how do you balance throughout the whole entire journey? It become a bit again art and science. And then we're very lucky at that time, our game designer, he uh was a PhD student turned into like a lecturer and then turned into a game designer. So he just so happened that he had both of those knowledge in one body. And again,
mhm.
those type of talents are just like kind of where to come by.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm.
Yeah, working with different groups will definitely a difficult task,
It's so
especially
hard.
it yeah, especially combining education or something more rigid to a game that is like people uh like playing just for fun. It's definitely not an easy task.
Inter-
So yeah. So, looking back, what were the most difficult trade-offs between historical accuracy, accessibility for neurodiverse learners, and maintaining a strong sense of player flow?
Yeah, so we chose Roblox as the distribution channel
Mhm,
because we're already solving so many hard problems. Is that one problem that is easy to solve, like to make our life easier, was building the game on Roblox. Roblox has a distribution channel already. It also have the game engines, so it solves a lot of the engineering and distribution problems that we have. So
mhm,
what that end up doing is that we can really focus on the game content and game design. I think the vigor was well, it's these blocky character, right? It's never gonna look
mhm,
like the historical figure. So we try to trade that like historical accuracy in terms of the look and feel to something a little bit more whimsical. It feels a little bit more like a
mhm.
game and really focusing on the accuracy on the storytelling side. Like these events
Oh,
are like as closely as possible. These dialogue is as closely as possible. We look at reference of these image back in the time on the Native Americans and all that, and try to create these blocky environment that mimic that, right? We try to get very close to the color, the theme, but overall, you go to the game, you still feel like, oh, it's a game. It's still like a Roblox game, right? But very high
right.
quality.
Mhm,
So if you make it so historically accurate, then you're making a documentary. You're making a documentary,
mhm,
kids know they won't play it.
mhm. Yeah, that is
Yes.
when they
They're
find
like,
out, and then yeah.
yes. And you saw that too. Like you saw sometimes like a lot of these like educational game, right? They
Mhm.
are trying to appeal to adults. So they have to like
Uh,
have the figures, have the description, all these dense text. It's like museum, right? Like when museum make a, like an
mm,
interactive product. Oh, this is so educational. But kids look at it, it's like, no, I'm being
yeah,
forced to do this. I will click around, but I don't like this, you know?
right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just to please the parents and
Yeah.
letting them know that, oh, your kid is learning something.
Yes.
Yeah, that is not the goal for this project, right? I would say.
And I think like when we make like a historical games, the goal wasn't like, oh, I want to force you and spoon feed you all the information and details, right? That's not the goal of the
Mm,
game. I just want to get you interest enough to learn more about this topic on your own. Like,
mm,
I think there's a lot of time we watch a TV show or we play games. We got so interested in a topic, we end up doing a lot of research outside of the games, outside of the TV show, outside the movies. So the goal wasn't like we give you all this information, but really like, can we inspire you to learn more, right?
mm,
And then like in our community war and also like our Discord channel, right? A lot of the students like, oh my God, I just learned this in school. I can't believe I'm playing games about this. Now I want to study more about this topic. That was the
mm,
success metrics, not like, oh, by playing this game, I memorize everything. Well, don't do that.
mm. Yeah, yes, for sure. Like I definitely played games before and then ended up being like, oh, what is the history behind this? And then
Yeah.
yeah, I can totally relate to that. And also, like you mentioned, a lot of the inspiration for creating this game was from you playing games such as Assassin's Creed
Yes.
and from other games. So you definitely have the experience and definitely know how to bring that into your game.
Yes.
So I want to move on to a more recent work of yours at Fundamental Research Labs.
Sure.
So at Fundamental Research Labs, you're co-leading games work where Minecraft is used as testbed for generalist AI agents.
Yeah.
How does your background in game design influence how you approach AI agent research in an open-ended world like Minecraft?
Yeah, so that was a very interesting project. And of course, there was like a research paper that ended up publishing from the work that the team has done, right? Uh, so working with a group of researchers is very different because researchers work in like a lab environment, research lab environment. So turning research into like a product is a huge jump. Because when you do something cool in a lab environment, a lot of time is proof of concept, right? Ah, you're able to do
Mhm.
something cool. But
Right.
when it translates into product, you have to understand like would people actually spend money on it? Would actually people want to engage with it, right? So
Mhm.
the project started with this like Robert Yan, who was a professor at MIT, he was looking for, okay, well, we're a bunch of researchers, we don't know anything about games. Can we get some game veterans or people who are very deep in that space to help us to translate what we have done on the research side into actual product? And funny enough is that the co-founders was also in the same accelerator program called A16C Speed Run with me. And at that time, we were just having a conversation, say, hey, you guys are doing something really cool. Can I like check out what you guys are doing? And that small conversation turned into later on in acquisitions, and then it become like a collaborative project, right? But what we learned is that there is a gap. Like when people don't have time to always play game at the same time. So if you think
Right.
about our schedule when we were kids or even in high school, right? People have very similar schedule. You go to school at this time, you go home, you study, you eat, right? Your friend's schedule is more or less the same as yours. But once you go to
Mm.
college, or even like after college, your schedule is so different. Your friends can't just sit with you and play games with you at 9 p.m. just because you have free time. They're gonna have like things going on. So this idea of like having an AI agent that play with you at any time whenever you're available become a very attractive idea. So we were just
Yeah.
kind of going on like this like lifestyle change that people experience as gamers. What is really sort of missing in their life is a companion that play with you and play at the same time. Now, how do we design a companion? That become very tricky because you
Mm.
don't want an AI agent that's just so good, right? If it's so good, then you're like, oh, I'm playing with a bot that's so good. But you also don't want it to be so dumb that you have to teach everything. We almost have to have like a complementary skill set as the players. And that become very hard because that means the AI agent needs to have some sort of visions. It needs to have skills from a skill libraries and also have to be adaptive to your gameplay style. And when you put all those things together, uh, turns out that's very expensive to run on AI. It it was really cool. It was really cool to watch, but every time we run those experiments and explanation, it gets like very expensive. So the team have to come up with like a lots of different way to like minimize the cost, still make it like a product that's fun to use. So turning research into products and then in like fitting into consumer behavior was, I would say, is actually very challenging. And you can see that with like a lot of like product in AI today too. Like high level sounds really great, but when you actually start using it, it's like, whoa, this is not as easy as we think, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yep.
So, your team has open source Minecraft agents capable of building complex structures such as starships and monuments. What design principle guided how these capabilities were exposed so they feel impressive, but still understandable to users?
Yeah. I think we did a lot of user study. We'll bring like players into the lab and just like watch how them plays. And like I think the magic moments that a lot of players felt was when you bring these agents to Minecraft, they start moving autonomously. Like
Mm.
it's very different when you talk to ChatGPT or like talk to ChatGPT. Like you interact with ChatGPT or any of the AI agent because there's always like a test format, right? It's text-based. Even with generative pixel, right? You see an image generated or video generated, it's still very like very one dimension type of interaction. But see an actual agent operating in a 3D world like Minecraft, right? That's when you feel like, oh my God, this thing comes alive. And that is a magical moment, right? It's like, would they behave autonomously? Because a lot of the bugs that we experience in like games, right? They just do very repetitive motions, or they follow directions, or they have a script that they just follow. So we realize that the magic moment is when these agents operate autonomously. That's where that really surprise users and really delight them. Because they can
Mm.
never predict what they will do next. Yeah.
Exactly. Like normally when you play a game and then NPC just does the same things over and over
Yes.
again,
Yes.
imagine them coming to life and
Yes.
interacting with you. That would be something that I would really want to experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And we did this like simulation where we put these autonomous agents into like Minecraft, right? And watch
Mm.
them creating civilization was really cool. But
Mm.
then it was a really cool project. It was really fun to watch. It's really great to write research paper. How do we turn that into a product? We couldn't.
Mhm.
Because like why would anyone buy 1,000 AI agents? Like they will watch them interact once, right?
Yeah.
But you won't watch it again. You maybe watch it maybe a second time, but then
Mm,
that's it, you know? Yeah.
yeah. So games have long been a sandbox for AI, and from pathfinding to decision trees and reinforcement learning. What feels genuinely new about today's wave of agentic AI compared to the AI game developers have shipped for decades?
I think the game AI has been around like since the 70s. I think in the past it's very
Mm,
scripted.
mhm,
You give instruction, it follows. And there's still a huge avenue for them because games is about shared experience, right? And sometimes you just need the NPC to say the same thing to everyone, right? You need that shared experience.
yeah.
But I think the new way of doing things where like these AI, like I said, being like more autonomous, have reinforcement learning, personalized, behaviors, give like a new way of playing games. Like, oh,
Mhm,
I can solve, play the game a little bit differently. And if you look at lots of games now is more open world
mhm,
games really benefit a lot more from these, agentic technology because then you allow people to explore, right? And when you explore,
mhm,
you want something new that maybe other
yeah.
people don't experience. Another thing is that imitation play is pretty big,
Mhm,
especially when it comes to training, right? Like, I don't know if you play any like Street Fighters or any of the fighting games. If you train with a
yes.
bot, right, you can always
Mhm,
beat the bots because the move is so predictable, right? But how
mhm,
can I get better as a player if I have a better training AI that help me get better, understand my weak points, and maybe have computer vision to know like, hey, you shouldn't place it in that position. You should do something else. Like, how do you have that personal guidance and tutor, right? That's where I see the power of these agentic AI coming in. Yeah.
yeah. Wow, that was really relatable because I am a Smash player. So
Yeah.
being in the training room and the bots just standing there and pressing the same buttons really
Yes,
doesn't help me train. So yeah, AI agent would definitely be in good use in the future and maybe in fighting games as well.
yes. And the thing is like it's not about playing against someone so much better than you, right? It's playing with
Mm,
someone just like you. You just have to beat the version of yourself, right? So you can get
yeah,
better. So if the AI
that's
can
right.
learn with you, so you're always
Mhm.
playing with someone which is exactly at your level, and that's really hard.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is. Oh, well, is it possible how that AI can kind of mimic your play, or that doesn't really work that way?
It can mimic your play. It does get very tricky because it have to have like a skill library. It have to understand your gameplay patterns. It's all about recognitions, right? Like
Mhm.
a lot of it is training on your data and
Mm,
have like a
right.
personalized model for you. And of course, that gets really expensive. So again, there's a lot of great ideas in games, but it's like, how do we also minimize costs? Yeah.
Yeah, that just sounds like a really difficult task to
Yes.
really balance out. Yeah. So, as agents become more autonomous in sandbox environments, what responsibilities do game and product leaders have around safety and player expectations and emergent behavior?
I think I think a lot of it, if I just like think about from a pure product design perspective, was that game is still like a collective entertainment format. Like it's very interactive, but people still need to have that shared experience, shared storytelling. So
Mhm.
if the agent diverge the storyline too much, then everyone have like a very different experience, right? And when you have a very different experience, you destroy community. So let's
Yeah.
say we both bought the latest Super Mario games, but then the gameplay is completely different. How can I talk to you about this game? How can I tell you what I just played when you have like,
Mhm.
such a different experience, right? And I think a lot of the LLM model I see is that they are there to like really favor the user's opinions. And I think some of the best games that I've played in the past is that it challenged me, it challenged my thinking, challenged my belief, right? And really like trying to bring a community together. My thinking is that like if the AI isn't helping of like building the community or having that shared experience, then you just end up making a games that people are just playing individually. And I think the best game is the type of that like very social and people can like
Yeah.
I don't know, connect with each other because I think
Interact. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
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 So, uh, last question for this segment. For this section, I mean, when working with generalist agents in open worlds, how do you think about measuring success beyond traditional win conditions? What metrics actually matter? And when agents display certain behaviors or personalities, how do you distinguish between meaningful general intelligence and patterns that are artifacts of the training setup or design choices?
I think a lot of it still go back to like the traditional metrics, right? Still retention, section time. Just because you like put AI into something doesn't magically make the product better. If your core loop is still terrible, it's still terrible. You know,
Mhm.
um, I'll give you an example, the way I think about it, right? Back in 2010s, like being on the cloud is such a big thing, right? Oh, we're going to the cloud. But people never say that, oh, I'm building a cloud application. They just be like, I'm building a game, I'm building an application. They never like have specific say that it's on the cloud because everything's on the cloud already. Same
Yeah.
thing with like with AI, right? You think about adoptions. In the future, nobody's gonna say this is an AI app because every app will use AI at some point, right? There's no point to mention it. So it goes back to the traditional design thinking. Like, do you have a very strong core loop? Are you giving values to the users or players? Are they having fun? Right? Like we should, I think there's this overemphasis on AI in a lot of the technology products that I'm seeing. But if your value is not strong, if the game is not fun, you can have 10,000 AI agents and it's still not fun, right?
Mhm.
Like, why are
Yeah.
they there? Why you need these AI for what? Oh, you're just going through like a simple survival RPG loop. Do you really need AI? You know,
Mm,
like you literally, your NPC is literally there to just greet a users. Do you need AI to greet like seven different, greeting message? It's like
yeah.
the greeting
Yeah.
message is not gonna move the games. The games is good.
Yeah.
Like the core loop's gonna move the games, right? So I still
Mm,
go back to session time, retentions, D1, D7, D30 retentions. Um,
hmm.
that's it. Yeah.
I see. So yeah, not everything needs AI,
Yes.
of course. Yeah. We only need it when it's actually meaningful.
Yes.
And yeah, that that definitely explains. So let's talk a little bit about connecting everything together.
Sure.
Across Supercell, Tiny Comet, and fundamental research labs, you've worked at the intersection of data, creativity, and technology. What common approach to experimentation connects these very different environments?
User feedback. You want to go to
Mm,
market, especially now with generative AI and all these ease of deployment, right? The sooner you can put your products in front of the user, the sooner you get feedback from users, the faster you know if your products or your games have any sort of values.
mm,
I think in the past, people sort of build in silo for like months and months and even years before they launch a product. I think just based on like my recent experience, whether in startup AI and my 10 years at Supercell, the sooner you allow someone to see your product and get feedback, the sooner you can like perfect your core loop. Because the players or even users, they always use your product in a way that you might not even like think about.
right.
And I see a lot of developers, even founders, like they kind of overthink it a little bit, right? Like, oh, I need to make sure I have everything. Guess what? You don't have to have everything. You just have to have the core loop ready. Then you should test it out. Let's say if your game is just match three games, right? You don't have to have all these bells and whistles. Just show me
Mhm.
if your puzzle fun enough. If your first
Yeah.
five level is not fun enough, I don't care if you give me streak. I don't care if I can share with my friends. I don't care if I can change color of my characters. Is the puzzle fun enough? Right?
Mm,
So get that out as soon as possible. Get the data and see if people want more. Let's say you make a puzzle game, you're after five level, people's like, is there more? Now that's a good signal, right? You did
yeah.
something good. But after they
Mm,
five puzzle, they're like, oh, it's kind of fun. They never ask you about anything again. You failed.
mm,
Try again.
mm,
Yes.
yeah. Ah, see. So don't be afraid to put things out and
Yes.
let people just experiment with it.
Yes. Just have the thinnest vertical slice, like the product slice, right? Just find that very thin vertical and have that core loop ready and just test it out.
Mm,
Yes.
okay, well said. So you often operate between engineering and marketing or between research and production. So, what have you learned about translating between those cultures so ambitious ideas can actually ship?
Um, every groups have very different goals and mindsets and what they try to deliver. Like engineers are constantly thinking if they can do something, right? How to do something, how can this be built, right? So working with engineering, you need very concrete goals and actions lists and action items for them to actually be able to achieve. With marketers, right? Marketers is all about, user acquisitions. How can they grow this product? How can they present the brand? So you almost need to like give them a lot of rooms to be creative, to think things out of the box. They don't need very prescriptive type of like instruction. You just need them to like be more exploring, right? Exploratory with like their approach. So I think the best way I've learned to work with them is to learn to speak their language and learn to
Mhm.
adapt to how they want to work. And if you are the product owners or the product manager, that is your most important job, is to communicate effectively to each group how they want to be communicated, not how you want to communicate. Engineers need like task lists, so create a task list for them. Marketers need a brief to do storytelling. Give them a brief. You have to be adaptive to their working style. Because now, if you make the engineers to write a brief, then why do they need you? They can just do it themselves.
Yeah,
Yes,
I see. So it's all about being fluid, being adaptive,
yes,
communicating with different people. I guess you can say that this applies to anyone in workspace or like, yeah.
yes. And I think like, you know, the most important job of a product manager is to inspire and create culture, right? And I
Mhm.
don't think people really think of this way. And this is something I learned at Supercell. 50% of your product is culture, is your team culture. What sort of culture
Mhm.
are you building, right? If your culture is very toxic, that's your fault as a product manager. You create a toxic culture. It's not the engineers, it's not the marketers, it's not other like whatever junior members that you can blame. It's you. You are the culture because everyone comes talk to you. So what message have you been delivering to them?
Mm. Wow, that's a really interesting perspective that I've never
Yeah.
thought of before. Yes, I now thinking of it, playing Supercell games, I've always had this feeling of like cheerful, joyful, and it's definitely something that the 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 game owners or like the game really wants you to feel. So
Yeah.
I can definitely see this perspective. That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Culture is everything.
So
You want people to
yeah,
leave your games and leave your products feeling good, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Okay, how has so you mentioned that you are a mother as well. So
Mhm.
how has parenting influenced the way you think about player empathy, whether the player is a child learning history or an AI agent exploring the world?
I think for me, um, it all go back to like I think I said a lot throughout this interview is what values am I giving to them? Like what values am I
Mhm,
providing them? Am I taking things from my players or am I giving them something, right? If I'm
mhm,
taking things from them in exchange, what am I giving them? It's a give or take. And I think some of the best games people play for so long is because the perceived value they receive is greater than whatever they have to give. And that's why they keep playing over and over again. Um,
mhm,
I like the metrics I use is a little bit different, right? I think
mhm,
things like games, it's not something that people need in their life.
mhm,
But whatever I create means that the time they spend on this is more joyful than whatever they can spend the time on. That means
mhm.
it's more fun than TikTok. That means more fun than Instagram. That means more fun than whatever movie or whatever they want to watch, right?
Yeah.
With that being said, that means the value I have to give to them has to exceed all these things. And what am I
Mhm.
giving to them for them to spend their precious time with us? So that's how I think
Right.
about it. And same thing with parenting, right? Like
Mhm.
you're teaching your kid something, you have to teach them something good, or that they
Yes.
perceive it as good, right? That this is worth
Yeah.
listening to. Like, oh, I'm gonna listen to mom because this is really valuable for me. So same principle. Yeah.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah. That's really heartwarming to listen to, even though I'm not a parent just yet. So, if you were starting a new studio or a research lab today, what is one lesson from Supercell, one from Tiny Comet, and one from fundamental research labs that you would definitely carry forward, and one you would leave behind?
Um, I think one of the best lessons I learned from my times in all these companies is that the best leaders are the type that see themselves as servants to the people who report to them. So doesn't matter if I'm ever starting a new studio or like I'm working in another big game studio, I always see myself uh, as a servant to the team that report to me. And this is an idea that Ilka talked about a lot. He's called himself the least powerful CEO, and the triangle is upside down. Like he is like on the bottom, and everyone who's executing is on the top. And I really, really believe in that. That have like this mindset has helped me um, recruit some of the best people I have a chance to work with. Um, Many colleagues are still remain to my closest friends to this day. Um, because you're not there to tell people what to do. And I think people are so smart, right? You don't have to tell them what to do. They would do the right thing if you like just give them enough trust. So that would be something I would carry forward. The thing I leave behind is um, almost like sometimes we want to be so perfect before we show the world what we have created because creation is so deeply personal. When you see people don't like something or they don't perceive it as great the way that you see it, like a lot of us can take it very personally. I have definitely experienced that when I was at Supercell, whether when I was doing my own studio, and even with fundamental research that we launched a product that was not successful, you take it very personally. There's no need for that. The sooner you fail, the more things you're going to learn. So fail as fast as possible. Don't hold on to like the fear of failing. So that's something I will like leave behind. And it goes back to like, so I do TikTok on the side as like my creative outlet. I always tell other creators who just started their TikTok channel, post. If you get zero views, like I said many times, it's great. That means nobody saw it, so do it again. That's no shame.
Yes.
That's just no shame.
Yeah.
Yes.
Same principle as before.
Yeah.
Just don't be shy. Don't hesitate. Don't think too much about.
Yes.
Just do whatever you think is right. I
Yes.
would
And
assume.
I went to VidCon and I met some really successful creator that have like a millions followers, right? They
Mhm.
post as much as 16 videos a day just to get learning.
Wow.
And some of the
Ooh.
videos don't do well, but they post 16 videos. That's like the type of vigors that they like on themselves, right? I was like, you have a million followers. You still post that many videos? Like, yeah, because I need to learn. I need to learn what people like. And the best way to learn is put yourself out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a mindset that I might adapt myself
Yes.
further on into my life. Just
Yes.
don't think too much about it and just keep doing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's impressive how people really are on the grind and like
Yes.
that's how people success, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so lastly, want to talk about a little bit about personal perspective and looking ahead. So you've described your goal as being the best engineer among marketers and the best marketer among engineers. How has that hybrid in identity shaped your career decisions and the problem you choose to work on?
Yeah. I think like what I learned through this whole journey is that users and players, they don't care how smart you are. You can be
Mm,
the smartest persons, as smart as the best engineers. Guess what? They don't care. They just care if the product gives them values, right? And marketers are very good at conveying values, but they don't know how hard things are to be built. So being able to be in the intersections of like conveying a value to users or players, and then also understanding how hard it is to like build something really help just, you know, go to market, if I have to use like business terms. Um, you never want to get in a situation that you overpromise something you can never deliver, but you also don't want to get in a position that you undersell something because you are too shy or you don't think it's good enough. So I think that mentality have really helped me when it comes to like building something that user actually really wants or really need. And then also being able to communicate with engineers that my expectation is never too crazy or outlandish, right? Um, one thing I also learned is that you respect each department's craft, right? For engineers, I think people tend to have this like mentality when they talk to engineer, they're like talking about solutions. Don't do that. Just give them a problem. Just talk about the problem. Like, this is the problem I have. I'm very frustrated with this problem. Engineers are really good at coming up with a solution. What I saw a lot of time that PM does is that they go to an engineer and saying that you need to build me this because they already doing a solution for them. No, 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 no. Give them the problems. Same thing with marketing, right? I need you to sell 1,000 units of this. How, like, don't tell them how to sell it. They will sell it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
again, it's like finding a good way to communicate with both sides. Yeah.
Mhm. So yeah, showing up with a problem, they let them be the solution,
Yes.
basically.
Don't tell them how to solve something. Again, it's like,
Yeah,
this is like, why? You don't
yeah, they
know.
are the experts, right?
Yes, 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 yes. And then I get that also from engineers sometimes. So, oh, why is our marketing campaign X, Y, and Z? I was like, let the experts sell it. They know how to sell this.
Yeah,
I let them do that
yeah.
job.
Exactly, exactly. Sometimes their perspective of things or like what they think should happen isn't what
No,
actually goes on in
no,
their expert. Yeah.
yes.
So right now, what question at the intersection of games, learning, and AI excites you the most?
Um, Honestly, I think um I think we still haven't find some very interesting use case of AI beside autonomous driving. I think autonomous, like self-driving, is like the best use case of AI that you see it actually happening. I just see a lot of application have the word AI in it, but I don't see a lot of values that they're providing. Even like things like Cursor, right? Cursor is great. It helps you code, but it's still a very small portions of like the application of AI, right? So what excites me the most is that that means there's still tons and tons of opportunity that has not been discovered yet. And I do think that the future, that narrative is shifting. Designers, product owners, and product manager now really have a chance to really shine, like think through these problems with this new technology, because I don't think true adoption really happened yet, especially on the
Mm,
consumer side. Yeah.
yeah. People always say AI is like all over the world right now, but I really now you say this, I'm thinking of all the AIs that I've used, but it's mostly just like ChatGPT,
Yes.
Gemini, stuff like that. So yeah, I would definitely be excited to see more AI, good uses of AI in the
Yeah.
world in the
Yeah. It's like,
future.
what, show me something beside ChatGPT that people use it
Mm,
every day, right? I see autonomous driving. That's a really good use case. But do I really need to create AI image every day? It's not a
mm,
repeatable behavior, right? It's once in a while I create a meme, I make fun with my friends, or like I would move a background of an image,
mm.
or like I erase a little thing. But that's not repeatable behavior, right? So I'm still waiting for more products that can incorporate AI in a repeatable manners.
Right.
It's not there yet, so go build.
Yeah.
We have time, we have opportunity, go build.
Yes, exactly. We really hope it would happen one day.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, from your perspective, how is AI currently reshaping the gaming industry, and how do you imagine games and game development evolving over the next few years as agentic AI becomes more capable?
Yeah, so one of my more favorite AI games, I'm a huge fan of, is the AI Dungeon and Dragon game. Because Dungeon and
Mm,
Dragon is the type of games that require the dungeon master to be very descriptive and come up with a lot of
mm,
scenario and stuff. I thought that was like a really good use case of AI.
mm,
And also, uh, this type of like, creative storytelling, right, is exactly how the LLM model is trained on. So I see any sort of like open world exploring type of games have a, good use of AI. But in a lot of traditional gaming, I still see it be pretty slow to adopt.
mm,
Um, Mainly because gaming is about shared experience, right? So if you diverge the storyline too much, you really lose the magic. Like one of my favorite game is GTA Grand Theft Auto, right? If everyone play a different version of Grand Theft Auto, right? You don't have that shared experience of like, did you visit the area that has some exotic dancer? I was like, no, my game doesn't have that. So now you lose that shared experience, right? So how do you make sure that people still have that ground core loop that share, but maybe some elements of it is different? It's really tough. It's not easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's hard to really think of AI in games right now, but that you mentioned AI Dungeons and Dragons, I it kind of blew my mind a little bit, even though I did not react so hard. It was like, oh yeah, exactly. Why didn't we use this
Yeah.
a lot more? But yeah, there's definitely a lot of new ways of using AI in games.
Yeah.
I would
And of
hope to
course
see in the future.
you can use AI for like cosmetic and people can use like generative pixel to create like different costume and such.
Mm,
But then this goes back to like how the social mind works, right? Like, why do we want different costumes? Why do we want different outfits? It's to show off, but not to
yeah.
show off because it looks good. It's to show off because we can spend, right? So
Hmm.
you almost
Yeah.
have to have the same outfit so people know that this is expensive outfit. So it goes back again.
Uh,
People need that shared experience. When you don't have anything shared, it becomes disjointed. Then you don't have a social product, right? You can have like a
mhm,
personalized game, but again, it's a very different gameplay.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, what advice do you have for girls and women aspiring to become engineers or game developers in a more male-dominant industry? Has your Asian heritage helped you in any way to get to where you are today? And what skills do you think are most important to develop today and advices that you would give to someone starting out?
So the statistic is actually for us because if you look at the demographic of gamers, right, women's and men's is 50-50. 50% women,
Oh,
50% of gamers are actually women. I know
mm,
most people don't know that. But there's a lot of women gamers out there, but less
mm,
than 25% of like folks in the gaming industries are women. So you have the audience, but you don't have enough developers, right? And one thing I
mm,
learned in my gaming career and later in my engineering career is that you want to lean into your femininity. I think in my early day when I started at Google, I really tried very hard to fit in. Like I will, dress like the guys. I will wear Patagonia jackets and wear these like tech t-shirts. But no, I think the best way to do well in these environments is to be more of yourself because your perspective actually really helps to make the game better. Especially when there's a lot of gamers that are women, like how do you appeal to them is not to be performative, is actually be yourself. And that really have helped me in my career. Like when I was, starting my gaming studio, right? Like some of the feedback, I guess, like, oh, no one's gonna fund someone who's a mom, a woman on a new video game. That's not the case. That was one of the biggest reasons why the investor was interested in funding me. It was like, oh, a mom making games for her kids. That's new. Let's see what she's
mm.
doing. So things things that you believe that is against you or actually put you as a disadvantage actually can be your biggest strength because you're showing perspective that people have not seen. And same thing going to like creations, right? You are the niche. And there are lots of people that look like you, think like you, that wants to see things that you create. Yeah.
I see.
Yes.
Letting your sound be heard is really important, or
Yes.
like putting your own personality into the games.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think like I see a lot of girls game bubbling up, right? Like what type of games that girls like to play? Decorative game. Like I want to have a room, I want to decorate the room. That's a game,
Mm.
Like
Yeah,
you can go make it.
exactly.
If this is what you want
Yeah.
to play, I'm sure a lot of girls want to play it too, right? So make games for
Mm.
yourself.
Mm.
Yes.
Okay. So, last question of this interview. You're currently working on a new startup, Stealth AI.
Yes.
Without sharing anything confidential, is there anything you can tell us about the direction you're exploring or the kind of problems you're excited to work on next?
Yes, I think we're now getting to stage where you can build something really, really fast with the help of AI. So the development cycle actually gets shorter. And the user feedback and the product feedback actually now become the bottleneck. And this is actually very aligned with some of the presentation that came out from YC last year, right? Uh, Before in the old Silicon Valley day, you'll have one PM per like 12 engineers, and the product cycle is really slow. But now it's almost like one PM per half of an engineer because you can build so
Oh.
fast. So like getting the user feedback as soon as possible is something that I learned in this place, especially when you have a team of engineers all using AI to code. Um,
Mm.
I think using AI to code for someone who doesn't know anything is already very impressive. Imagine if you know something and you have this product that really help you to accelerate your speed, right? So
Mm.
now instead of like, oh, you have to wait 3 weeks for a feature to be built, the same feature can be built this afternoon. What next? What do you do next?
Mm.
You need to get user feedback. And what we learn is that the user adoption is actually the slow part. Like you build a feature, right? You think your all the user will just use it right away. No, no. It takes people 2 to 3 weeks to adapt to the new feature. So what do you do in these 2 to 3 weeks? The engineers is like, wait, I have nothing to do now. What do I do next? You have to come up with like a much more robust product roadmap than it is before. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Thank you, Emily, and it was really
Yeah,
nice talking to you. And
definitely,
it
Sam.
was a really, really, really fun interview, and I think I learned so much about the gaming industry that I've never heard before. So it's been an honor, and thank you for your time. And
Definitely. I'm really happy to speaking with you.
I'll talk to you soon. And
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Bye. Talk to you later. Have a good night.
Bye.